Did you say Hydrant Man? The dogs must love you.
It's Hydro Man.
Psychotic origin of Hydro Man from Spider-Man, the animated series. Spider-Man easily boasts of one of the best galleries of supervillains, with bad guys like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Mephisto, Venom, and so on. It is hard for the audience to not fall in love with them and their storylines. Unfortunately, Hydro Man does not get as much love as the other villains, even though he is pretty cool and has given Spider-Man a total run for his money. Originally Morris Bench, he used to be an ordinary crewman. While he was stationed in his ship during a battle between Spider-Man and Namor, or the Submariner, he was accidentally knocked overboard. Meanwhile, a powerful experimental generator was being tested in the ocean. Morris falls into the ocean himself during the testing, and the energies from the generator combined with the gases from the undersea volcanoes. Its influence caused an abnormal mutation in Morris, and his body turned into water. Unable to regain his human body back, he attacked Spider-Man, who dissipated the situation by making him evaporate. But once the particles reintegrated, Morris turned to a life of crime. Morris Bench first appeared in the comics in The Amazing Spider-Man number 212 in January 1981. He was created by writer Dennis O'Neil alongside artist John Romita Jr. Apart from the comics, Hydro Man has appeared in Spider-Man the Animated Series, Fantastic Four the Animated Series, as well as the Spider-Man video games. In Marvel's Spider-Man Far From Home, a creature based on Hydro Man appeared as one of Mysterio's water elementals. Before diving into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please, subscribe to Marvelous Videos, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a video. We would be grateful to you, and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content. And with that, let's get right into this video.
3 minutes underwater. Do I get my merit badge?
You! Haven't you figured out yet that...
Psychotic origin of Hydro Man. The episodes of Spider-Man the Animated Series take heavy inspiration from the source material, i.e. the comics, and the episodes revolving around Hydro Man are no strangers to that. Here, it took inspiration from 1981's The Amazing Spider-Man number 212, i.e. his debut issue. Spider-Man reads the Daily Bugle while at Coney Island, where he finds out that he is being blamed for the crimes by a mysterious thief. He wishes for Mary Jane to come to Coney Island with him, but she had been giving him the cold shoulder lately to ward off entering into a serious commitment. Meanwhile, a pearl necklace, which was kept safely in one of the tanks of a local aquarium, gets stolen. The guards look inside the tank and see a man inside. A metal wall comes down to surround him, while the alarms begin to blare, but the man escapes before Spider-Man's arrival. Spider-Man rushes to the scene and catches a whiff of the perpetrator, who hits him with a wave of water, making him fall into one of the tanks. Spider-Man escapes while the guards blame him for the theft. On the other hand, the thief holds up the $2 million pearl necklace and exclaims that it is all for Mary Jane. Peter Parker meets with Mary Jane at the Coffee Bean, but Mary Jane turns down his proposal to go to Coney Island together. She suddenly gets a phone call from a man named Morris Bench, who asks her to meet him at the Seville Hotel. With a shocked face, Mary Jane leaves in a hurry, and Peter notices how worried she had gotten, so he follows her as Spider-Man. At the hotel, Morris Bench places the pearl necklace around Mary Jane's neck, but she tells him that Morris had made her life miserable. She returns the necklace and asks him to leave her alone as she did not want to be with him. Spider-Man overhears this conversation and looks back into the hotel after Mary Jane leaves, but realizes that Bench has vanished, which he finds suspicious given how fast it was. Bench follows Mary Jane to Washington Square Park, and Spider-Man is shocked by how Bench is reaching the spots before he himself can. Morris tells her that he can control water sources near him as he turns the fountain in the park into a geyser. Mary Jane is terrified, and Spider-Man intervenes, grabbing Morris's hand. He attacks Spider-Man, who is unable to fight back due to his web fluid dissolving in Morris's water. Morris's bursts control the area's water to burst through the fire hydrants and the sewers, creating a huge wave that carries Mary Jane away, but Spider-Man manages to save her and take her to a safe spot. Morris, or Hydro Man, catches up to Spider-Man and completely nullifies his attacks with his liquid body, allowing his hits to pass through. He blasts Spider-Man with a powerful wave, but Spider-Man chooses to make a run for it. He asks Mary Jane about Hydra Man and finds out that the two dated in high school, but she had no idea how he had gotten his superpowers. With Morris running her life as she had confessed, Spider-Man realizes why Mary Jane was afraid of committing to him, or rather Peter. Peter studies a sample of Hydra Man's water and uses it to create a web fluid that turns to concrete on coming in contact with water. Peter goes to Mary Jane's apartment, but Hydra Man beats him to it once again. He carries Mary Jane away in a wave, and Peter gets into his Spider-Man suit and follows them. However, Hydra Man plunges into the river with her, and they arrive at a pumping station. He shows her all the jewelry he had stolen for her, and she realizes that he is the mysterious man behind all the thefts. She asks him where he had gotten his powers from. After Morris was expelled from high school, he was made to enlist in the Navy. He was assigned to the Special Research Division. One day, an accident with a mini submarine falling off the ship caused Morris to fall off the ship and into the water. The sub crashed into the ocean floor while Morris drowned, and the impact cracked the ground. A strange gas seeped from beneath the ground and mutated Morris's body into living water. He dubbed himself as Hydra Man and began to commit robberies. When Mary Jane tells him that she doesn't love him, he threatens to flood New York City. However, Spider-Man arrives and engages Hydra Man in a fight, except it is a lot more fair this time with the web fluid working like a charm. Mary Jane and Spider-Man get away, but Hydra Man frees himself to pursue her, the power of a simp. Mary Jane runs into a recycling center where she pushes a heavy pile of paper atop him. She then throws a bucket full of dust at him and climbs to the roof. Hydra Man, now weakened due to being away from a water source, gets on top of the roof as well. He begins to fall apart and he charges at Spider-Man, but Spider-Man dodges him and Hydra Man's body falls apart as he evaporates. Mary Jane asks him if he is dead, but Spider-Man claims that he could return in the form of rain.
I don't weaken quite so easily. I have an entire ocean beneath me to feed my power.
Hydra Man returns. Mary Jane and Peter get married, and they head to Niagara Falls for a late honeymoon celebration. Mary Jane tells Peter about being plagued by a dream where she keeps getting chased and attacked by clowns and pirates while she wears a wedding gown. The couple reach their destination and board a boat. They spend their moments together, but Peter's spider senses get triggered, and rightfully so, as Hydra Man returns. He wants to make Mary Jane his lover and takes her away to New York with Peter chasing after them. In New York, Peter searches every water-based location, but is still unable to find Mary Jane. The police look into the matter as well, and Terry Lee asks Peter not to intervene. Meanwhile, Felicia dons the Black Cat's costume and goes to find Mary Jane by herself. Spider-Man steals a sample that Terry Lee had been investigating to narrow down the geographical location of Mary Jane. The unrefined hydrocarbons give away the fact that Mary Jane is being kept in an oil drill. He succeeds at finding them, and the Black Cat catches up as well. As Mary Jane tries to evade Hydra Man, Spider-Man arrives and engages him in a duel. He freezes Hydra Man, but he escapes soon enough. He traps Spider-Man in a steel structure and breaks the oil drill fortress, hoping to get him electrocuted. However, Black Cat saves him while Hydra Man escapes. Mary Jane steals a boat and arrives on shore, but gets arrested for theft. Hydra Man attacks the police, and Mary Jane escapes to a nearby facility. Hydra Man catches up, but she uses the chemicals from a storeroom and sends out red fumes, which allows Spider-Man and Black Cat to locate her. They arrive in time to fight Hydra Man. However, Hydra Man turns his water arms into a drill and advances at Spider-Man with the intent to kill, but Mary Jane knocks him away, exhibiting that she has the power to control water as well.
Mary Jane, I can't reassemble myself.
I won't let you terrorize me any longer!
Spider-Man finds out that Mary Jane is the clone of the real. With her newfound power, Mary Jane takes the issue to Terry Lee for investigation. She also goes to Dr. Kurt Connors with Peter. He unearths her repressed memories using hypnosis, and she relives the nightmare that had been bothering her. Meanwhile, Hydra Man is unable to rematerialize, and Miles Warren tries to help him out, but Hydra Man leaves to spy on Aunt May instead. He eavesdrops on her phone conversation and learns of Peter and Mary Jane's location. At the same time, Mary Jane turns into water against her will, and Peter realizes that her dreams are the key to saving her. He had to decode it. He goes to a themed restaurant and follows one clue after another until he finds a tunnel. Mary Jane is also taken to a lab, which she recognizes from her dream. Spider-Man reaches the lab via the tunnel and attacks Hydra Man. In a while, Miles Warren appears, and Spider-Man recognizes him as his cloning experiments were banned. What Miles Warren reveals shocks everyone. Not only is Hydra Man a clone, but Mary Jane is also a clone, as she was made from her hair sample and Hydra Man's water molecules. In the end, she begins to evaporate as Hydra Man destroys the place. But before she goes away, she tells Peter that the original Mary Jane must have loved him a lot, as she herself felt so strongly for him despite being just a clone. What did you think of these episodes? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye, and have a nice one.
This is all your fault! You couldn't do it correctly. You should never have done